Technology and education is something I have always been super passionate about. Starting right back when I was in concurrent education at Brock University, I used to TA a course called Technology in Education. So it has come from a very early stage in my career to be passionate about how we could use tech to further the learning. But the biggest piece that I'm super interested and engaged in is it's not about the tech. This lesson today and any other lesson that I do with technology, it's not about using iMovie, for example, or using the camera feature. The lesson is just about the actual great pedagogy that's happening, but using the technology to further that and to capture it. Because I think often when people hear tech in education, they think automatically, I need to do this wonderful lesson about Google Docs, for example. I need to know everything there is to know about Google Docs, and if I don't know everything as an expert, I'm not going to do it. But that's not 21st century education, right? So 21st century education, as I've learned to evolve over the last 8-9 years of my career, is working with the students and being that facilitator of knowledge and using technology to be able to capture some of that is really powerful. When Google Apps for Education came out, few years ago, I think 4 years ago now, Google Classroom was brand new 2 years ago. This is not a program that's been around forever, but we adapt with it, we evolve with it. The first time I used it in my classroom last September, I said, this platform looks really cool. It came out 2 weeks ago. Let's see what happens. And we learned. And then in terms of taking that learning back to build staff capacity within our school and within our school board, it's just working with teachers to discover that themselves. So not standing up and saying, this is why technology is so amazing, but co-planning and co-teaching, getting into those classrooms with them, engaging in how this could work, and realizing, and I think this is the biggest thing, is when people realize you don't have to be an expert, it automatically takes away this pressure, which allows the entry into tech to be so much easier. And that happens with teachers, it happens with students. Textbook work, out the window. read a book, answer 10 questions, out the window. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's what learning used to look like, right? So the idea of shifting that individual classroom model to being collaborative works with the technology. If you take a look around this classroom, there's no desks. There's no desk because this isn't an individual room. It's structured to be collaborative, and I use the technology to have that collaboration take place. So for example, today we used Google Drawings and had 5 to 6 Chromebooks at different table groups, one per different group, and they were able to engage in discussions about co-created success criteria for each of the areas of the curriculum for this project, add their ideas, and then we have a community discussion about it. So whereas before we would have created a rubric and we would have given it to the class probably after the task, and we would have said, this is what you were assessed on, by the way. That's totally shifted now, and building that assessment piece is so important at the beginning of the task together. And yeah, it takes time. It's probably going to take time away from a directed lesson, but we're not doing directed lessons because that's 21st century education, right? So we're going to discover it together, and we're going to explore exemplars, and we're going to create a project together, and then we're going to create the assessment piece together. And I always have that be twofold. So you'll notice in today's lesson, I had recapped at the beginning of it that we had brainstormed criteria at the beginning of our project about what made a really great infomercial. I didn't structure that into a checkbook at that point because they weren't ready for it. That was just the beginning of our journey of understanding what an infomercial is and understanding how that lives in media literacy, oral, reading, and drama. Once they started to get through it and work with it every day, they had a deeper understanding. So today, I could have that collaborative discussion and then take their criteria and build it into a check brick. So when they've got this check brick that they're using for their assessment, in this case, of, for, and as learning, they're part of that process. That student voice is there. They know what they're being assessed on. They're passionate about it because they were into it. They have that buy-in because they created that with myself. I know the curriculum in the back of my mind. I know what I'm probing them towards, and I just keep that in my mind as I try to gauge their discussion of student voice and thoughts to match what I'm looking for in the curriculum. And it always turns out better than what I would have come up with myself in the first place. So it's a bonus double edged.